New York, New York, all the Empire State politics you need to know in just a few New York minutes. And on the Democratic side here, Richard Brodsky, former Assemblyman, senior fellow at Demos, professor at NYU. And on the Republican side, John Cahill, former chief of staff to Governor Pataki, former commissioner of New York State's Department of Environmental Conservation. All right, guys. First issue, the governor responding after a spate of corruption scandals in Albany says, New Yorkers, you can sleep better, appoint a Moreland commission. Give me, Richard, first the backstory, what this is, what it really can do, and how it's a little bit different than the governor originally imagined.
Well, it's much different, and it morphed into something actually quite good, but it was originally intended as political punishment for failure to adopt his idea of good legislation. That's not an acceptable reason to do something. But he also changed his position on what the composition would be. Without getting into too much lawyer stuff, if he had just appointed a Moreland Act commission, it would have failed. What he did is brought the Attorney General in, a guy who was not his political ally, shared power, deputized all the commission members as assistant attorneys general, and the net result is he's going to be able to look at the big problem in Albany, which is not the idiot thievery, it's the legal corruption, the transfers of huge money, amounts of money to governors, legislative committees, controllers, attorneys general in exchange for outcomes. That's a good thing. I don't want to say he was lucky because he showed flexibility, but it wasn't what he originally talked about.
It's not going to be the aim of this commission, am I right here, John, what the general public might think it is, which is they're going to be looking, as he said, at the idiot crooks or the people that may or may not be caught on wires trying to buy influence. What they're going to be focusing on, though, is he right that this is really important, just as important as the stupidity?
Yeah, I think it's, looking at the big picture of corruption in Albany, I think is an appropriate place to start. I wouldn't be surprised if it leads to some of that, if you would, more detailed stupidity in Albany, keeping in mind that it doesn't have the power to bring criminal action, but certainly can refer. But I really do think, I agree with Richard on this, that the commission as it's established with the deputizing of the AGs in this process can really brings a hope for change and for some transparency in Albany and to, address the political corruption at the highest level.
But I'm excited, John. The issue is the legal corruption, not just the stuff that's already criminal.
But that's true. I mean, there's the legal corruption, but there's also the political corruption, Richard, that is maybe, the idea of money passing through not-for-profits, okay? And that is a corrupted issue in Albany. And if we get to those issues and some clarity and transparency, there's real hope of change in Albany through this process.
Let me talk about the coming mayoral election. We sat down this week with Christine Quinn, and among the things we asked her about was Anthony Weiner. No doubt the guy surged in the polls, but she didn't take the bait when asked, and seemingly neither has the field in going after him, given obviously a very exposed chin on a lot of different issues. I like how I put that. What are they waiting for?
I don't think that anybody is advantaged at this stage in the race by turning starkly negative. Weiner came in and made a major impression on the race and is likely to continue to. I was right, you were wrong.
He will not be the Democratic candidate for mayor. It will not happen.
Having said that, the Democratic voter is interested in things like, what are you going to do for me? What does this mean for the middle class? What does it mean for special constituencies, gay community, black community, and others? Those debates are likely to be much more powerful than anybody's mistakes, however serious.
No, Christine Quinn is really threatened by Weiner's presence in the race. There's no question about that. And frankly, Thompson, I think, is gaining momentum with the UFT endorsement. I think he's getting more engaged in the race. And for Christine Quinn to remain a key factor in this race, she's going to have to address the Weiner issue, if you would, in sometime in her campaign.
I mean, he said he wouldn't vote for her if she was the nominee. She wouldn't even go that far when we pressed her on it. I just don't know what she's waiting on right now. It seems that this was they were trying to do the Rose Garden strategy. It didn't work.
That kind of conflict is a double-edged sword. Voters, in the end, aren't looking for the person who's going to be the slash and burn candidate. They're looking for someone who'll do something for them. The interest we in the chattering class have about the back and forth and the sword fight is secondary. It's a good decision for her. I don't know that she'll be the nominee. I don't know that Billy will be the nominee, but it's not going to be advanced by anybody attacking the other.
Let me ask another question she didn't answer that you two can't duck. I asked, or Dominic asked her, best mayor in her lifetime in New York City? How about you? In your lifetime, who was the best mayor for New York City?
Fiorello LaGuardia.
All right,
Gotcha.
that was an easy one.
Gotcha.
Go after him, because you go back a little farther than her. She picked him and she wasn't even born.
Richard has more choices on this one than I do.
Oh, it's an interesting question. In some bizarre way, Ed Koch.
Really?
Yeah.
How about you?
I really think that between Koch, Giuliani, and Bloomberg have brought an awful lot to the city in their own way. Actually, at this point, I really do think Bloomberg has brought a sense of growth and expectation of the city. And he wouldn't have had that opportunity without Giuliani, and Giuliani wouldn't have had that opportunity without Koch. I mean, they have to build on one another.
I could just see the temperature going on.
Mike Bloomberg is leaving this city broke.
Oh.
He's done two things of note in legacy. He rezoned Manhattan and he built 3 sports facilities. That's it. That's your idea
Richard,
of progress?
you haven't been to New York City, the outer boroughs, or to the west side of Manhattan, the growth that's happening in the city, the excitement that now in the city that was certainly missing 20 years ago.
You don't think he left a better New York than the one he
Giuliani
found?
Bloomberg.
Oh, I think I'd phrase it this way. The city is in better shape now than it was 12 years ago, but so is Los Angeles and so is Chicago, and a lot of that has to do with the recovery from the Great Recession. And he's not a bad guy, and he didn't murder and kill and pillage, but his accomplishments, he's leaving the city without labor contracts, so the next mayor has to deal with them.
He's leaving without labor contracts because they won't negotiating him, waiting for the next Democrat to come in and get the store away. That's why there's no labor contracts. If you're a millionaire,
it's a better city.
If you're a labor union, would you sign a contract with Mike Bloomberg right now? No, you wouldn't. You wouldn't even sit down and negotiate with him.
Talk about an issue that we discussed this week. Came out of the Stafford loan story where Congress's inability to get something done. You're going to see the rates double. But the broader issue of affordability of college. You guys know the New York SUNY system probably as good as anybody, obviously from your time in the governor's office and your time in the legislature. We've seen tuitions everywhere skyrocket, but use even the state model, which the whole premise was you get a quality education at an affordable price for New York families. And even that is becoming so prohibitive. What's the dirty little secret? Why does college have to cost so much? And why is it something kids walk out with, burdened with debt here, seemingly for decades?
With 4 kids in college, I wish I had the answer to the question, Richard, but it's a real problem for our country. When you look at the amount of debt that 22-year-old young men and women have that is going to impinge upon their opportunities for a lifetime, it's really quite dramatic.
What was the challenge in trying to hold down a tuition? Why did it keep creeping up year after year? Not by just rates of interest.
There's no level of accountability in higher education.
It didn't creep up. There was an intentional policy under Governor Pataki and other governors to raise SUNY tuition. It was sent to us as legislation, it was sent to us in the budget, and it was intended to take SUNY tuition way up and decrease the public contribution. Decades of disinvestment under many governors and under many legislatures has been a major, if not the major factor in the increase in unaffordability of education in New York.
But no, here's the answer. It's always more money, right? That's the answer. Oh, we know more money. It's not always more money, okay? Whether you look at the private colleges or the state colleges, the answer is not more money.
How about the same amount
That's
of
not
money?
the answer, right?
How about the same amount of money?
Sure.
You sent us legislation to
historic
increase
investments in higher education, Richard. Listen, you could look at the facts, but the reality is there is no accountability. Universities now think that the more they cost, the more competitive they can be. And there is no market competition for really holding them accountable for what they're charging for education. $60,000 a year for private education is absolutely absurd. I don't care what university you're going to. The same thing with SUNY, Richard, but we don't have any real market-driven accountability to the higher education.
Market-driven accountability for a state system doesn't work.
It works.
What happened was they intended to raise tuition. They did it.
So we just keep on giving them more money, whether it's taxpayer dollars or private dollars, without holding anybody accountable. That's not the solution.
Somebody might have said that, but it wasn't me. Nice try.
Out of time here. We will see you again. Another installment of New York, New York. Gentlemen, thank you.
Thank you.